You might have heard that the Houston Texans made a massive trade, landing Stephon Diggs from the Buffalo Bills. And because of that move, everyone is taking notice of the Texans. But not everyone is willing to jump on the Houston hype train that is gaining major steam, as it should be. This is a team that's more than just a one trade team, a one wide receiver addition, one wide receiver team. This is a real breakout candidate. This is a real, serious team. The Texans are the breakout team of 2024. The Houston Texans are a legit contender this year. And you better be taking them seriously come this season. I'm giving you the warning shot right now. And I've been known to do this because across the NFL community, fans and media alike are often way too darn slow when it comes to identifying breakout teams, teams that will contend that season. And check the track record. 2019, the 49ers. Who said it? 2020, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I picked to win the Super Bowl. Who said it? 2020, the Buffalo Bills to make the AFC Championship. Who said it? In 2021, as soon as Matthew Stafford got traded, they weren't overhyped. Who said it? In 2022, the Eagles to be the best or one of the best teams in the NFC. Who said it? So here on the BLV, we have a track record. And we have a track record to uphold with the Houston Texans. And I'm telling you right now, as I pat myself on the back for years past, that I'm not going quietly into the night with this one. I believe that the Houston Texans are as real gets in 2024. Allow me to explain in this video as I dive deep into this roster, the offense, the defense, the coaching staff. Gronk spike the like button. Don't forget to subscribe for more NFL rant style videos just like this. And I wanted to make this video because I just noticed so many haters. So many Houston haters. So many people that are not willing, before they see it, to claim it. And that is just not the way we work here on the Bottom Line View. So if you're with me, if you want a seat on the train, I'm telling you, it's taking off and tickets are going fast. So join me. Join the hype train. Let me know in the comments if you're joining the Houston Texan hype train of 2024. Let's begin at the top. And that begins with the quarterback, who once upon a time, another pat on the back for Mitch moment, and I'm not trying to be arrogant or outlandish or anything like that, but I'm just telling you, like I told you CJ Stroud was going to be very, very good. I think the title of the video was CJ Stroud will be a superstar in the NFL and why they should pick him over Bryce Young, referring to the Panthers. They got that one wrong. Okay? The Texans were gifted a superstar quarterback. And just because he wasn't the first pick doesn't mean that he's not going to have longevity, does not mean that he's a one-year wonder, does not mean that he's going to be real. This wasn't just one season. This wasn't just a fluke. Your eyes did not fail you. What you saw in 2023 from CJ Stroud was one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. What you saw in 2023 from CJ Stroud was quite simply one of the best rookie quarterback seasons I have ever seen. And probably possibly the best rookie season in terms of protecting the football and also efficiency. When you dive into CJ Stroud from 2023, he led the Texans to a 9-6 record as a starter. He missed 2 games. He threw for 4,100 yards, 4,108 to be exact, 23 touchdowns to only 5 interceptions. He had a passer rating of 100.8. And diving a little bit deeper into those numbers that seem impressive on the surface, he led the NFL in interception percentage. He led the NFL in yards per game passing as a rookie. He not only led the NFL in yards per game passing the ball, but also in interception percentage. That is impressive for Tom Brady, let alone a rookie, right? That's impressive for Patrick Mahomes, let alone a rookie. That's something that even a guy like Aaron Rodgers, off the top of my head, has never accomplished. So what you saw from CJ Stroud last year was a combination of carrying the team through having to pass the ball for a lot of yards, but also protecting the ball in a rare and special manner. So don't get that mistaken as a fluke. He was also second in average depth of target, which meant he's throwing the ball down the field aggressively. And this, at its peak last year, in my opinion, the Texans were the best downfield explosive passing attack in the NFL last year. They could be that again in 2024 because they have added another piece to the puzzle. And they did that over the last half of the season, although they did fall off a little bit without Tank Dell, right? Tank Dell was amazing and extremely important to this team when he was healthy. He will be back this year. So you're talking about a superstar in CJ Stroud who can elevate the pieces around him through his accuracy, his ball placement, his power, especially in between the numbers, and his ability to extend plays and make magic and throw off of platform from multiple delivery points to a point where pressure never fazed the man, the young man. He is a special one. He is a superstar. He is a guy that could win the MVP, making your team a legit contender right there. You start the conversation with the quarterback, and CJ Stroud, the Texans got a great one in CJ Stroud. You then extend that conversation to the play caller, the offensive coordinator that I think aided CJ Stroud to become one of the best rookie quarterbacks we've ever seen, Bobby Slowick, who has returned to the Texans in 2024. Under Bobby Slowick, this offense was really, really explosive and really good. Now, on the surface, right, 13th in points for, 12th in yards. They were 7th in passing yards. They were not very good in the run game, 29th in yards per attempt, but they did have the 20th most attempts. So they were trying to stay balanced, although they couldn't really find it for much of the season. Devin Singletary kind of found a groove near the end. And they connected off of a very Kyle Shanahan-like offense. A lot of running, outside zone, inside zone, play action, deep crossing routes, right? CJ hitting those routes, money every time. And then CJ's magic to extend plays. A lot of it was run game, vertical shot, run game, vertical shot. And you think about how this could grow. The offense, the inventory, I think I said that right, of the offense could grow, especially in year 2 with an offensive coordinator quarterback relationship. Now they don't have to keep those training wheels on because they already know that CJ Stroud is the dude. They can begin this season the way that they ended last season in terms of, we know this guy's legit. Early in the year, it felt like they were kind of like guiding him through the process, but they didn't really realize what they had yet. And then somewhere around the middle of the year, they're like, yeah, this guy's really good. And maybe somewhere around after the bye week, that Tampa game really comes to mind where they just started to unleash things. And I could see that ramping up this year. And it should ramp up because the Texans did not stay the same. They decided to go in on Stroud and upgrade the receiving core with a name like Stephon Diggs. And yeah, Diggs is a really good player. He's not quite what he used to be, a top 5 receiver in football, but he's really good. He has 6 straight 1,000-yard seasons. I think he has 4 straight 100-catch seasons. He has 1,000-yard seasons on multiple teams. He has multiple 10-touchdown seasons. He's led the NFL in receptions and yards in a season. He's a really good player. He's a really good route runner. And he was in kind of a limited offensive scheme post Brian Daboll. Wasn't a big fan of the offensive coordinators post Brian Daboll in Buffalo. I think that had something to do with Diggs, especially in big games, underwhelming. Now, I'm not saying that Diggs is going to be able to put up 150 yards when he's covered by guys like L'Jarius Sneed. That's not going to happen. But now you look at Houston, and this is way more help than Stephon Diggs ever had in Buffalo. It's not even particularly close. Nico Collins is arguably the best receiver still on the team. Like, Nico Collins, people don't realize, he was the 3rd best graded receiver in the NFL according to PFF last year. PFF thought that Nico Collins was that good last year. Not just good, not just a breakout, not just took that next step, but a guy that was one of the best receivers in the NFL. So you combine a steady force of a route runner extraordinaire, especially at the intermediate level where CJ Stroud thrives. You give him to a guy that already has Nico Collins, who's big, fast, physical, and people still don't really have a good idea of how good Nico Collins is. Trust me, he's really good. And then you have Tank Dell, who's going into year 2, who hopefully can be healthy, but he's explosive. He's quick, he's twitchy, he's fast, he's a great route runner, especially down the field. And you combine those 3 guys that can all run routes well, who can all stress a defense vertically, who can all win at the intermediate level, and all of them could play inside or outside pretty effectively. Even Tank Dell, even Stephon Diggs, especially Stephon Diggs. And I could see Diggs playing a lot in the slot in this offense with 3 receiver sets. And then the way that Slowick is able to kind of create compression formations and attack the middle of the field, where he gets these receivers open a lot of the times, which is where a guy like Noah Brown was super successful, even though he's never really been a great receiver. I think a lot of it had to do with scheme. Now you add really good receivers into this scheme on top of having a reliable tight end, a chain mover in Dalton Schultz, a running back now in Joe Mixon, who's still a really good player, coming off, I thought, a better season in 2023 than he had in 2022. Maybe not statistically, but physically speaking, I thought he was more explosive, quicker, faster, and he's a really good running back. Like, I don't think people appreciate Joe Mixon. He has great vision. Not the most explosive guy, but really good in terms of wiggle, jump cuts, ability to find that yard when you need it the most, break that tackle when you need it the most. How many times did he come through in Cincinnati in big games? Pretty much every time. I think back to that Buffalo Bills game where Diggs was on the losing side in 2022 in the playoffs. Joe Mixon was the engine of that game. And I think he can be an engine in certain matchups and games, but he's just an added on piece. Like, the run game is going to be secondary to what they do in the passing game because of all these receivers. But on top of that, they want to remain balanced because of what that brings to the offense. The run and the play action threat. It works and it coincides. So this offense, really, when you think about it, a superstar quarterback, arguably the best receiving core in the NFL, a great dynamic play caller in year 2, so he's more comfortable, more ready for the show. Joe Mixon at running back, Dalton Schultz at tight end, an offensive line that was heavily beat up last year, but they still survived and still played pretty well and should be healthier this year. A premier left tackle, a really good right guard, a solid right tackle, a young center. They've got the pieces. A young left guard as well. They've got the pieces to be a top 3 top 5 offense in the NFL, if not the best offense in the NFL. They have the quarterback, the receiving core, the balance, and the scheme. That's all the pieces you look for in a contending offense. An offense that can win a shootout, an offense that can control the ball, an offense that can keep away from the other best offenses in football. They have all of the elements. A quarterback that can throw for throw, go with Mahomes, Allen, or Burrow, or Lamar. A quarterback and a receiving core that can come through on high leverage situations. Okay, we've lost yards on 1st and 2nd down. We're in 3rd and 15. Our quarterback can extend, our quarterback can make a throw, and our receivers can make that play, run that route, make that catch. So the offense is there, 100%. The defense is the unit that's a little bit more questionable, and that was the unit that was a little bit more questionable last year. But I think people fail to understand what you need in the NFL right now to be a good defense, especially one that can win a championship. And I think it begins with a play caller, a defensive-minded guy that can rise to the occasion in a big game. That's what I think matters a lot in today's NFL. It's not about how you are for all 17 for the entirety of the playoffs sometimes. You might have a bad game, but how valuable was Bill Belichick to the Patriots over the years, even with Tom Brady, just his ability in one game setting to mess with Peyton Manning, to shut down the greatest show on turf, to beat Sean McVay and the Rams. There are certain games where these guys will have to come through. Take it from a Patriots fan. We've seen what Steve Spagnuolo has done to the Chiefs. He has made them a dynasty. Without Steve Spagnuolo, they are not a dynasty. I don't think they would have the consistency on defense, taking lesser players and making them better. Products of what he does. You think about even what Big Lou has been able to do with the Bengals. Not the most impressive top 5 defenses in the NFL, but every time they get to the playoffs, they play really good game plan football. There's a reason for that. Mike McDonald transformed the Ravens last year. I think that Demeco Ryans is one of those coaches. I think he is one of those coaches because I've seen it enough. I saw what he was able to do to the Eagles offense in 2022 in the NFC Championship. And if you really go back and watch that game, if Brock Purdy plays that game, the Niners win. I don't think that's a bold take. You watch what the defense of the Niners was doing to the Eagles, and there was not a lot of success to be had for Philadelphia. You look at what he was able to do for the entirety of the first half against Baltimore in the playoffs with a lackluster defense in many ways, not the pieces he has now, which we'll get to. You look at what Demeco was able to do in San Francisco. You look at what he was able to do in Houston. I think he's a really good game planning coach. I think he's a really good defensive coordinator. And clearly, I think if Demeco is on the Niners staff this past season, they probably win the Super Bowl because their biggest weakness was having not Demeco Ryans, but Steve Wilkes calling plays in the Super Bowl and throughout the season. So I think that Demeco Ryans is another one of those superstars. CJ Stroud is one, Demeco Ryans is one, and Bobby Slowick might be one as well. You know you have the receivers. You know you have the offense. We talked about it. But what about the defense? Where are the playmakers for the defense? Well, that's where they came through this offseason. Because you go through this depth chart, and this is a really good defense on paper with the potential to be a top 10 unit in the league. And I still think that they could use some help, especially at cornerback. But besides that, you're talking about a pass rush that's going to be premier, top of the NFL. Danielle Hunter, I do not care what people say about his age. I do not care. This man was a gift from the football heavens to play in Houston. He is a specimen. He's coming off one of the best seasons of his entire career. You check the numbers. Just check them yourself. Sacks, tackles for loss, tackles in general, forced fumbles. They're up there. This guy has done it year after year after year after year. Come back from injury after injury. System after system. It hasn't mattered. He's been productive and one of the best pass rushers in football. Probably top 10 for the last 6 or 7 years. He's been that good. And he will be in Houston. On the other side, Will Anderson was a top pick for a reason. First of all, an absolute dog in terms of effort, mentality. Love what he brings in terms of intangibles. And he really impressed me. I actually wasn't the highest on Will Anderson coming out of the draft, and I will admit that. But he really impressed me with his game-breaking ability, especially in terms of not only as a pass rusher, but also a run defender, getting his hands on the ball in the passing game, doing a lot of different things. And you bring in other names. Demeco Ryans been one of my favorite players in the NFL. Super underrated. Can play inside on a pass rushing down in a sub package and rush the quarterback from the interior. Can play on the edge. Can set the edge in the run game. Can be a blitzer. Can be a guy in terms of those simulated pressure looks where you're standing a bunch of guys up at the line of scrimmage. Is he a linebacker? Is he a DN? Is he a D tackle? I don't know. He looks kind of slim, but he's also huge. I don't really understand what he looks like, right? He's a unique player, and he's been really good. He's coming off a double-digit sack season. So you've got those three guys that can get to the quarterback. You've also brought in Fatukazi, Tim Settle, Mario Edwards, all players that will rotate into the interior. I love the Derek Barnett re-signing. I thought he played very well for you guys last year. And even a guy like Khalil Davis, who I know from the New England days, that's not a bad depth player as well at the D-tackle position. Linebacker, I think the Texans upgraded with Azeez Al-Shaair over Blake Cashman as much as I like Blake Cashman. I think Azeez knows that Niner system under Demeco Ryans, played very well in San Francisco for him. He flies around. He's an absolute dog. I mean, you're going to love this guy. He doesn't have no regard for his body, like none. He is reckless, but it's fun to watch. He's fast. He can cover, and so can Christian Harris, who I was extremely impressed with last year, especially in coverage. Super smooth, great mover, great compliment, those two. They could use a little bit of linebacker depth, but I really like those two in the middle. And then cornerback, you've got a number one corner in Derek Stingley Jr., who I thought really developed last year in a big way, in a big manner. I thought he held his own when they gave him the responsibility to play against number one receivers. That was nice to see. I've always been a Jalen Petrie guy. I love how he plays. I love how he comes down in the box and just comes down and makes plays. Love him as a blitzer. Jimmy Ward has always been a good player, one of my favorites for a long time. You added Lonnie Johnson Jr., Mike Ford, CJ Henderson has a lot of upside, I still believe. Miles Bryant's a solid contributor at the nickel position as a depth defensive back in New England, very good in zone coverage. Desmond King is a solid player. Jeff Okudah, not a huge fan of that signing, but I do believe that him or CJ, between the one of the two, right, two former high picks, I think in the same draft, they might work out. One of them might. You never know, especially with Demeco coaching them. So you really check this defense and you go through it, and the defensive line is awesome. Like, it's one of the best in football. The linebacker duo is one of the top 10 in the NFL. The cornerback one is there, right? That's what Demeco added in Charvarius Ward in San Francisco. The cornerback one is there. The safeties are pretty good. The corners could use work a little bit, but they added a ton of depth and competition. And I think they do have safety depth with Eric Murray, Lonnie Johnson Jr., and MJ Stewart. I think there's enough depth there. So I look at this roster, and if you're not looking at it and saying this is one of the deepest, one of the most complete, one of the most Super Bowl ready, contender ready rosters in the NFL, you're lying to yourself. You honestly are. Because as somebody that is unbiased, as somebody that looks at the entire NFL and not just one team, which a lot of fans get lost, and I could understand Texans fans getting lost here, and they have in the past, but as somebody that knows every roster in the NFL, this is one of the deepest in the NFL. This is one of the best in the NFL. This is one of the most balanced in the NFL. And it has all the key ingredients. Superstar quarterback, superstar pass rushers, superstar receivers, a superstar corner, a superstar OC, a superstar defensive play caller. All the pieces in place to be a Super Bowl team and a breakout team. So, this is the warning shot. The warning shot sent across YouTube, the internet, and the NFL community. Don't be late to the Houston hype train. Don't be late, because it's taken off in 2024. Thanks, guys, for watching. Gronk spiked the like button. I'll see you soon. Peace.